there can be those headaches. We've seen them in matches where they come in huge favorites, drop games, drop matches to MVP, for example. So, KT Rolster, we feel like they're on the up, but we've said that before. Let's see how much and how firm they can be in where they come in massive favorites against Ever8.
All right, well, already starting things off here. Over on the blue side, Ever8 going to be banning away that Galio into the pawn, is more than happy to bring it up when applicable, but Syndra will also be taken off the board. So far, it's going to be that mid lane focus.
Ever8, Scepted in particular, champion pool obviously not looking fantastic at this point. Orianna most played 0-5, Victor 0-3, but Syndra is one of those 2-0 champions where earlier in the season he was getting comfort, but it feels like Rumble, Syndra, those are the solo lanes you worry about from Helper and Scepted respectively, and after that you kind of fall off a cliff. They haven't really found success on any other picks. The Gragas ban is probably actually going to be targeted towards comeback, even though Helper has played it in the top lane. It hasn't been successful. So looking at that champion pool for Hachani, now comeback, back in the team, this time on jungle. The matchup against Score, it writes itself. It is one to smile about, even if the roles are very unfamiliar.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Caitlyn away from depth, but he's been more of a Varus spot as of late, so he'll be happy to pick that one up, should it still be available. And with Zach on the board, has to be the final ban from KT Rolster.
And Elise is the big jungle pick here Achilles has left available. It's not necessarily one that Comeback has been able to play much in solo queue, because in the 10-ban system, it is almost permanently banned. If you look at his accounts, about 2 weeks ago, or just under, he started playing jungle again, so he picked it up, perhaps with Malrang, having some teething issues as a young player coming into the squad. We'll just lock in the Elise, but that means that Helper gave up Rumble to give Comeback in his jungle debut the Elise. So that's respect to Score, but also a high priority for a player who is looking to make a very quick impact against one of the best junglers in the world.
All right, yeah, here we go. Changing things up even further, though, with the Varus still available. Deft just going to go ahead and get that Xayah snatched up himself.
Yeah, teams have been liking the Xayah quite early. We saw Caitlyn answered by Xayah in the series yesterday. Seeing it over Varus and Ashe is a surprise, but has good wave clear. The 3-item spike is insane, and KT Rolster have been famous for not really drafting for late game team fights, more focusing on the mid game. You get ahead in lane, you get 2 items, you work towards an Infinity Edge, and Xayah can do some dirty things as Helper gives up the Rumble, will take Kled into it. Known Rumble player is Helper, probably the best of his champion pool. Now trying to go into a counter matchup, but Smeb has pretty frequently counter-picked himself into bad Rumble matchups because he's such a damn good Rumble that he can navigate.
Yeah. Well, final pickup here in the first round for Ever8 is going to be the Karma. Could be flexed into the mid lane, but likely going to be for Ella down on that bottom side of the map. And Kha'Zix with the Elise taken will actually be the snatch up here for Score.
Big pick for Score in spring, especially started the season 9-0, I believe, on the Kha'Zix.
He was very busted at the time, but yeah, it's good play overall by Score. So a familiar pick for sure for him, so not really surprising that we see that one come through.
In his career, and all the games played in 2017, he's 11-2, so definitely statistically one of the best performing junglers for KT and for Score in particular. No Gragas for him to just go ultimate comfort on, but that is going to be the jungle AD carry and top lane selected, and now we're seeing support bans towards Ella in the second round from KT.
Yeah, so maybe they are expecting this Karma to end up in the mid lane, though Ella very comfortable on the Lulu, so maybe just want to take one away in case it is a flex in the mid lane and then focus back in on Decepted.
The reason why you start banning supports is you're kind of happy for Karma to be mid lane if you're pawn, because it opens up a lot of control mages and farming mages, but basically if you're trying to put mind games in with what you ban, you'll probably be forced to select something like a Victor, for example, as the last pick. So going for something like Lulu, warping the support pool more, might actually give you more options to get what you want, which is the comfortable laning matchup last. And for the side of Ever8, Karma's pretty straightforward, has shields, has good wave clear, and sort of champion where Scepted won't have to necessarily be as focused in the 1v1 gamesmanship that did him so much great work at the start of the season. Bit of comfort to get him back into the squad, as Rakan will be banned by the synergy against Xayah, and because Mada had an amazing game on Rakan, his first time out. Does mean that Braum, his comfort pick, is going to be available.
Seeing the rise in priority there for Braum.
most selective support across all regions last week, and does well laning into a lot of the tougher matchups as well. So ranged, melee, you're kind of always happy to pick up Braum. Braum versus Tahm Kench almost feels like the standard matchup we see these days, and Tahm Kench is a possibility for the side of Ever8, but doesn't necessarily fit against KT's comp as routinely as it does against some others. Looking for that information.
Nothing really shocking here as the Ashe comes through for Duel, and now the hover over that Talia or Septed. Bit of pushing power there in the mid lane. Pick potential with the seismic shove, which would leave that Karma down for Ella, unless they really wanted to change things up and go Talia support. But well, Tusen's not in this game, and nor is Max. So.
Nor is Delta Fox. So
yes,
Shifter, the well-known Talia support.
Thank God for that one.
Hey man, we get a lot of viewership if we just threw on some Delta Fox.
That's true. Honestly,
this.
could we just have Delta Fox come join the LCK? They could replace MVP. It's no problem.
They'd have to bring some Korean players on and ruin that synergy. Well, it's going to be more comfort for the side of Pawn. He's mostly been playing these utility mid lane mages, an Orianna Victor player, it feels like, for most of the season when the Galio's not available. So we'll just be seeing Orianna into Talia. Soft counterpick in the early game, but because they have other pushing lanes and KT with their confidence, they're not unhappy that, sure, their mid lane may have to kind of be on the back foot till level 9, but after that, things get pretty sweet for the side of KT Rolster. So very KT Rolster draft once again, and melee supports being in the meta papers over Smeb not very often going for a tank, and the also score taking damage from the jungle. Someone like a Braum can face check, can put down vision, and KT, it's their mid game that has really impressed us because it hasn't been get a massive advantage from the first 10 minutes, then throw it away. Honestly, they've been pretty on point when it comes to transitioning early to mid that other teams have struggled with.
I mean, we talk about Pawn roaming a lot more as of late. Now going up against Talia, he is going to have to be on point to be able to match Septed with that added mobility of the Weaver's wall to just get himself towards that top or bottom side of the map from the mid lane. Let's see how he keeps up, see if he can keep having these star-studded performances and give KT the expected 2-0 victory here over Ever8 winners, because really this is their match to surprise us.
And it's 2017, so that means we get Hachani in the jungle versus Score. First picking Elise for his first game. He's going to have to show us something, Achilles.
Told me this in 2016. I wouldn't have believed you, Papa Smithy, but let's go ahead, load on to the ring for Game 1, Ever8 versus KT Rolster. All right, here we go. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. I hope you're ready for an action-packed adventure.
You can hold that voice for a little bit, as school's out for summer, which means that the fans are managing to filter in a bit earlier here at Kilios.
Yep.
It's kind of the thing is that summer starts off a bit sleepy because people are still in school, exams are happening, but everyone can get their LCK fix now because exams are over.
I'm just going to be hyped until KT starts rolling over Ever8, and then we'll just calm it down. For now, it's like we're not sure who's going to win. It's, you know, anything can happen.
It's a day of grounded expectations. We have certainly, like you mentioned, some very real expectations that KT and SKT will come out unscathed. But wouldn't it be funny if they didn't? Wouldn't it be interesting? And also, what will the manner be of victory and defeat for both these teams? Even if the plan goes exactly as expected, there's still things to be learned today, and that's why today feels like quintessentially a league day. And I don't mean League of Legends, I mean, sure, if this was a tournament,
format,
very
right?
Missable, but in a league, in the context of what this means with the telecom war looming very early next week, could be a lot to learn about KT and SKT today. Speaking of learning, Comeback's first game in the jungle, his 215th game in Korea. Throw in some games for Vitality as well. So,
I hope he's not still learning. That would be pretty unfortunate. But
look, he started his time preparing for jungle, then moved to support and back to jungle. So you have to say he's perhaps 2 weeks back into the groove of being a jungler. He's on the Elise, so he got power, but it also means that Ever8 committed their first pick not to help her, being on Ultra Comfort on the Rumble, but on to Comeback, getting the Elise. So it's a lot really invested into Comeback and needs to make it work on the Elise.
it's a lot of things that need to work here for Ever8 if they're going to be coming up with that victory. But yeah, Hachani especially, Comeback, whichever. needs to have a nice performance to justify him all wrong that start.
Because of KT going very KT-esque with these Rumble comps, very low tankiness.
Oh, it's going to be an early handoff, maybe?
Just
No?
an extra leash, baby.
Okay.
Got to get comeback ahead.
That added little help.
But you'll note that Ever8 have gone 4 magic damage dealers, which against a team that can stack magic resist is actually going to be a very big problem. But against this team, which is going to be lower on the side of magic resist with no true tank, probably not going to be too many Spectre's Cows built on the side of KT. It doesn't mean this is as hard a kind of timer on Ever8 making their comp work. Sure, they'll have increased effectiveness in the early game because KT can build Hex Drinkers and Banshee's Veils in the mid lane. But still, this is the sort of comp where you don't just lose the game if you're behind at 20 minutes if you're Ever8 winners.
Oh, it's going to be slow starting here in the lanes. Slight little lead as you might expect there for Septed. And it seems like Smeb's having a pretty good time there. 17-12 at the moment in that top lane.
Comeback's pathing has been interesting. Only now is getting to his red buff. He's going for a different path than we've seen from any other release.
Yeah, went Raptor straight into the top side of his jungle.
With a late leash from Talia, then into red buff. So
score. We'll spot him there, and now he'll be spotted.
now what you can say is this path, you know, it's very easy to just jump on the storyline and be like, well, it's because he's new to the jungle, but what it actually does, if we're going to be glass half full, which we're choosing to be comeback, we're giving you the benefit of the doubt, it does throw off Score and any invade timings. You remember when Score played against another jungler debuting in Mowgli in his Ivern game. He completely read Mowgli like a book and just dictated the game from there. Comeback varying up his route so significantly does mean he doesn't have any camps contested, and he is able to farm to 4 very comfortably without Score being able to rewrite the script.
Then we didn't get that Ivern ever again.
It's true, we got some Ivern bans though.
Yeah.
And then this season we've had a couple of Iverns.
But it's like one of the only things that I ever wanted to see again from Score was that Ivern, because it was so good.
I was always waiting for Gragas to come back in the meta, because Score's Gragas was a treat. Even in KT Rolster's fairly unsuccessful 2015 Worlds run, he had some fantastic games in Gragas in that tournament. So, I don't know. The meta always feels like it's in a good spot for Score. He can go on the range 80 carries, then you remember the Immortal Score days. He's great on control junglers as well. And he's on Karzik's duty today, which could be some hot fire a little bit later in the game. But now, like you say, just a farm fest.
Slow and steady as she goes. Gonna be the push in, but everything's pretty even otherwise down here in the bottom side of the map. No real trading coming through. And the junglers just haven't been in a position to start anything up, so it's gonna be a slow one.
For once, Score doesn't have piles of VODs and tape to read into the enemy's pathing decision. That has always been something that Score has been credited with, is doing great research of his enemy. And when it's, you know, a handful of solo queue games, maybe some scrims a while ago, given that recent scrims would largely have been comeback playing support, this is probably a very difficult one for Score to read. So it's kind of got that little extra level of storyline as Mata's going to face check comeback.
Walking around the corner, the Cocoon comes through. Mata taking quite a bit of damage over the wall. Oh, interfired. And the volley
Gromp.
not quite going to take him down. Gromp is chasing his way in for the kill, but will not be able to find it. Mata gets himself out of there. Didn't even use the flash.
There's the equalizer onto
Helper. He's just walking straight
through
through this one. He's going to flash over the wall. Smeb, does he want to pursue? The answer's going to be yes. Doesn't have the first harpoon correct. They'll both go over the wall together. And Helper will go down. So, oh dear, what a way to start the top lane.
And remember, that was Helper with a counter pick choice, but something that takes some scaling, and it was them giving over Rumble to Smeb. A solo kill in that particular top lane matchup. Kind of reminiscent of when Afrika took on Ever8, and Marin got 3 solo kills onto Helper. I keep wanting to say solo kill, I wonder why. But we're going to finally see the replay here. Level 5 on both to start this off. See where the level 6 actually comes in for Smeb. He was 1 minion away, and the Helper picks his up, not going to be useful.
This is great placement.
When he's without Skull, like you say, excellent placement on the ultimate. Also able to crowd the blast cone as well. No exit for Helper. Nice stuff from Smeb.
He had a moment where he could have just knocked himself deeper into the jungle and sent Smeb back toward the river, but didn't take it. And, well, he dies for that one, so that is going to fast track that haunting guy's coming through from Smeb. So lots of damage already on that Rumble, so the laning phase is going to get that much more difficult for Helper.
And it's actually an even bigger problem than you're illustrating because he was able to go haunting guys against a lane where Seeker's Arm Guard and Ninja Tabi early is honestly often needed his comeback.
Yeah, that's going to find that Cocoon coming through. Smite here to get score some HP back. Does he really want to try to contest this one? The answer is going to be no. Doesn't have anything, so we'll just start up on the Krugs. But nice little invade there from comeback, getting some ground. No flash off the Kazakhs.
Yeah, playing around double control wards on the top side. It's a good stuff. Good order play from Hachani, who under that moniker was always really known for his ward control and his ability to get aggressive vision. It's a bit of a different proposition face checking when you have the amount of damage Elise does. So Hachani in the jungle, it's never been scarier, Kilios.
He's actually the one getting kills in the jungle, or close to it. He's the one outputting the damage, and people are face-checking him instead of vice versa. So, how the tables have turned. Meantime, here in the mid lane, Accepted. Go ahead, be chasing forward, has that ghost pop, trying to find Pawn. Good at volley, ripping their own size, the shove comes through, knocks him in. Cocoon not going to connect, but Pawn still goes down, and Septed finds the kill. Yeah,
just as the bot lane was pushing in, meant the Karma was also going to be there to halt any sort of retreat path from Pawn. Pawn goes down. Good use of the Weaver's Wall, not giving him great options. I'm back looking to contest his teleports a channel bot lane.
Yeah, both TPs going to be canceled out there. Looking for a bit of a fight, but we'll be backing down, so no explosive action here yet. Good there by Septed to put a kill on the board for himself. Helper using the charge in the meantime. Back up in the top side, and the map has quite a bit of damage. The throw down in onto Smeb. This time the placement on the equalizer not quite as good. Seems like he will be able to make it out here with his life, but you can see Helper trading quite nicely.
And if you think about the context of the map, things are going really well for the side of Ever8. With the pushing matchup in mid, they've been able to get control wards down that are only now being cleared by Score. Played around that vision well, had lane priority in the mid lane. Once Pawn didn't have an obvious retreat path, could be taken down, doesn't have a counter ghost to deal with Septed, had to go for the cleanse to deal with Ashe in team fights, so use summoner spells and also the lane priority that Septed had in the mid lane to get that first blood. Still, KT
take away the blue.
Yeah, they fire back and take away the blue, so that's at least something to halt Septed's wave clear. That will always be faster at this stage in the game.
Still just keeping things very close. Effectively just that first blood bonus separating the teams at the moment, so nothing too massive. But CS is going to be relatively even across the board outside of the jungle and the top lane.
Laps coming here from KT. Knew the contest coming in.
Shockwave is there. Septed does get pulled back in. Knocked down to about half HP as the rest of the team wraps around trying to contest in onto this blue buff. Smite will come through. Comeback takes it away.
But even that is just fine. You use the ultimate there to dissuade some sort of a true contest, and the end result is that Pawn still has a blue buff because he stole away that of Ever8, and Septed does not. Yep. So hitting level 9 and also having a blue buff advantage should allow Pawn to have some degree of control in the mid lane. That's a pretty important thing for KT, is Rumble is still at the stage where he can boss around Helper on the Kled. So they need at least one pressure lane. Top lane will evolve to be better for that of the Kled, but for now Orianna has already hit that point where she has some degree of push power against the Taliyah.
Smeb faking it back here, will be walking forward. Nearly has the overheat and almost gets rid of Scarl. Last hit there would have done it. But Helper, he's going to say, okay, you know what, just go back to base. Both these TPs almost available for Smeb and Helper, so maybe we'll see some more plays around the map.
Smeb going to be waiting for his teleport to come back. Has been able to go team fight build with the Haunting guys because of that early first blood. Been able to delay something like a Seeker's Arm Guard, and if they start lane swapping, which you can see, Deft is already heading to top lane. We saw less of the 8 to 12 minute lane swaps yesterday than we were used to from week 3 of the LCK, but being restarted here, picking up the Rift Herald is going to be a big priority for both teams and potentially can force the team fights and force Helper to be into teleporting rather than just preying upon Rumble in a side lane. Yep. Here's the answer from Ever8, so going to be those oceanic lanes, lane swap happening.
Just not coming through. Ella a bit cut off here as he's clearing out some vision in the river. Seems like Mata and Score, yeah, they're just going to be shoving him away from that turret, keeping that Ashe all by herself.
Smeb is so much more teamfight ready than you'd expect to Rumble against KDS. Liandry's already complete at 12 minutes. So his first equalizer, it doesn't even matter if he's not level 11. It's going to be insane. He was 2 levels above Helper, now back to 1, but significant experience advantage over the Kled as well.
Yeah, that's huge. So he's in quite the nice spot, to say the least.
When you have mastery over champions, sometimes you leave open the skill counters like the Kled is against Rumble. Just be confident that your team can make things happen in the early to mid game to circumvent some of the headaches that Kled can present Rumble if the match timer reads 35 minutes.
That'd be a minor victory in and of itself here for Ever8.
It's all about the sliding scales, like you say. Here's one of those all-ins, though. No armor from Smeb.
Yeah, duel starting to come out. Smeb will overheat and fire back a little bit, but seems like Helper is still pretty healthy. But now Sept didn't come back. Looking for a pick here onto Pawn. The Weaver's Wall is available. They will toss this one out. Pawn, can he get himself out of here? Will get knocked in. Seismic shove. Catches him. Flashes over to the side.
Charge is coming in too.
The charge is coming in here from Helper. Ash arrow out. Pawn will just go down. Sept finds the hit with that threaded volley on top of the Ash arrow to find the kill. And now Ever8 maybe looking for that first brick here in the mid lane.
5 people invested here from Ever8 as Xayah is pushing in top lanes. You're right. The mid lane turret's the important objective. They won't get the first brick, but you certainly would trade. Top of mid
they're looking for a bit more here. Mata gets caught out by that cocoon. Nearly goes down. Has to flash himself out to safety, but yeah, the turret does fall here in the mid lane, and it was a nice cutoff on Smeb because he couldn't get into a position to throw down the equalizer to clear out the waves.
Accepted may have finally shaken off some of the after effects of the match against Faker. He's been on point here, specifically with the Weaver's Wall setups. Getting the mid lane turret, now suddenly Pawn has less safe places to pick up the farm on Orianna, playing side lane on Orianna with Flash Cleanse, and specifically Flash Cleanse on cooldown. Means that Pawn may find it difficult to find safe places to farm. Meanwhile, Talia so adept at playing side lanes, there's something for Ever8 to play around, even with Rumble, with so many items.
KT, though, not going to be resting on that minor loss in the mid lane. Will be moving over, staying proactive. Get themselves that first Drake of the game. So Mountain goes over to them. We'll see the next one, a Cloud Drake spawn around the 21-minute mark.
So all eyes will be on Rift Herald in the interim of that, as Rumble has swapped back to the top side with no teleport up. Waiting to see which team gets the smart setup around Rift Herald. In some of our closer games, like for example KT versus Samsung, there were games where no Rift Heralds were able to be picked up, as both teams defended that objective so strongly. Be big for either side here. Both teams have good siege setups. High priority on that Rift Herald to be the capper, to say for example be answering the mid lane turret disadvantage that KT has right now. Ward coverage in the area for KT, but the control wards aren't down yet.
Rift Herald will be started up.
4 on the inventory, but none used on the Rift Herald, so complete information here for the side of Ever8.
The bottom lane so far away. Jewel and Ella still walking up the river. Rift Herald now down to around half HP. They go forward here. The dude comes down in onto Smeb, drops that Glacial Fissure through from Mata. Try to get the catch. They're chasing in onto Helper, slow him up. Concussive Blows will expires. He jumps away with the Shotgun Blast, but final Q from the Braum will hit, and Mata will help get that kill. Now the fight breaking out. Equalizer comes down, comeback, trying to retreat out of this one. Shockwave not quite going to find anything. His score goes forward, trying to get in on Deceptive, but he's taking quite a bit of damage. Now is cut off as Duel comes around the backside and just fires straight into him. And will help find that kill, handing it over to the Talia. Now come back, wrapping around from the side. Does he have another cocoon to offer up here? It's going to be bumped to the other side of the wall, but Septon arriving on the Weaver's Wall will pick up another one as Xayah goes down. They follow up in onto Pawn. Come back, finding the shot, and Mata dead to rights. One more shot from Duel will do it. There we go. The ace completed. Ever8 just blow open the game. Rift Herald not even picked up by KT.
And the Spectre of Spring KT returns here, Achilleos. They were very poor in target selection in that fight. So many members low. No one dies. The Equalizer in a nice spot. But once we saw Score leap in, he didn't have the range to actually get a kill. Was turned on, and from there, it was closest target for 3 low health members of Ever8. They end up coming up big leaders there. 5 kills and the Rift Herald. We're going to see a replay, and at the start, one thing to note is that Smeb overheats, can't use Equalizer. So at this point, it's like, okay, we're going to chase down Helper, things will be fine. Eventually take down Helper, and with Ever8 funneling into a choke that's excellent for Rumble ulti. Could have been used at this point, not used, still not used. Equalizer goes down, but crucially Pawn misses with the shockwave. Very poor shockwave in that scenario. And then Score had already leaped in. Realizes suddenly there's no damage with him. Duel's able to walk forward. Everyone's low. There's nothing left for KT. Pawn has no mana. Third use of the Weaver's Wall today is excellent. And Ever8 just out-skirmished and team-fought KT in pretty comprehensive fashion.
Yeah, really beautifully done by them. Now Rift Herald in the trinket inventory have come back, and then they can use that really wherever they want to. Shatter these remaining outer turrets, maybe make a play for that tier 2 in mid.
Look at inventories, in particular that of the mid lane of Ever8. Scepted,
yeah.
7 out of 7 kill participation, 100% kill participation. Stacking on Leandri's very soon, on full crown with his Talia build. He is certainly very powerful, and also the intangible power of the Weaver's Wall. You know, very much about positioning, has been on point as well. So
here we go.
Very nice stuff so far from Scepted. And this will be the Rift Herald, not going to be used in mid lane. They already had that turret, so want to break another one of these side lane turrets.
Yeah, KT just going to go ahead, let that one go.
They're going to ride it in as well. Scores top side.
Yeah, Deft has already pulled all the way back towards that tier 2. Smeb now going to be recalling, perhaps to join in. Does have a teleport available for himself if he wants to come down to this bottom lane. Cancels it actually to stick around in top. Seems like they won't get too much else here onto this turret. Actually kills it before the charge goes off, so nicely done there by Deft. So.
There's a little mistake there from Ever8, as we'll talk about that in a second.
Oh,
Here
boy.
we go.
Weaver's Wall and the charge coming through. Smeb going to get locked on. Does not have a flash. Seismic shove that just take him even further away from the turret. He's going to go down. Scepted, maintaining that 100% record. And also the majority of the kills on the squad. 5-0-3 now with this Talia.
And although Helper doesn't have kill scores, he is starting to get going on this item build. And there is that ticking time bomb going to happen about the Kled versus Rumble matchup. The thing I wanted to mention in bot lane is that Deft was able to walk up and hit the backside of the Rift Herald multiple times, even though a control ward and 3 members of Ever8 was around the blue side. So even though they had a lot of reinforcements, there was actually no pressure onto Deft when it came to dealing with the Rift Herald. They could have just shown and gotten more damage on the inner turret, end up with very little. But at the same time, see dual wave crewing in the bot lane, Helper having his free time with the top lane turret, and some of the standing gold should come down and start extending the gold lead for Ever8.
Yeah, I mean, this turret just going to go down. Smeb not looking to commit that TP, wants it for the map plays. So we'll just have to concede that tower over to Helper, who is still down considerably as far as the CS is concerned. But picks up that turret, has that much more gold, and helps stretch the lead, as you say, even further. 3.4 thousand in the lead is Ever8 right now, 20 minutes into this game.
Felt like Orianna here was kind of the late game insurance alongside the Xayah, because another KT thing has come through, because they don't have Ashe. They don't really have a lot of initiation on the side of KT Rolster when they prioritize the Xayah very early. Shockwave onto the Kha'Zix, never the most reliable initiator. Sure, Braum might be able to get down and dirty, but it's not Thresh that Marta has been playing pretty frequently recently, so it's a lower initiation comp again from KT. Amazing how many things come together to make it very different from Summer KT.
Ella very far forward. The Shockwave will come through, and he's going to go down as Deft claims the kill. Deft trying to trade something back, or at least get some damage in, but won't be able to find much. So just a free pick off there for KT. Gold lead still remains, however, for Ever8, but Ella's going to have to be a bit more cautious with his roaming.
Ever8 have more tools once Ella respawns to actually make initiations. They're ahead. They've got strong initiation. All KT can really do is focus on wards and play around objectives, because this comp, like we were mentioning, doesn't really have true initiation like other KT drafts this season.
But it's great containment fight composition here with the Equalizer, with the Shockwave there. So if you get him into that, narrow corridor or into the pit, that's when KT can really excel.
But does that require Ever8 to make a mistake, is where I'd counter with, because they also have Kled versus Rumble. They should only get better and better for the Kled. So if KT is actually able to force the enemy to come to them, that's usually a sign that KT's ahead and that Ever8 are making a emergency play with where the game is at and also where the matchups are at. It feels like if Ever8 play perfectly, KT should never get that fight where people are just grouped on the ball and take a 4-man Shockwave. Right now, it should not happen, but it is also KT Rolster versus Ever8 in terms of very disparate positions on the ladder. Ever8 still should have their heads held high because for 22 minutes, they've actually been able to get ahead of KT Rolster, and KT already going to have to make some dramatic plays with vision, I feel, to actually get control back in this game.
Yeah. I mean, could just be, an MVP-esque scenario where they get this nice lead, but then they don't know how to close out. But it seems like right now Ever8 are making the right moves, trying to gain vision control up and around this Baron. Helper in the bottom lane, just trying to control Smeb, keep him in sight.
Right now, they seem to be putting even more members in the bot side. They contested the enemy blue. So Comeback is kind of choosing to pick up blue buffs rather than necessarily cement that vision onto the red side. But cementing vision is another one of those areas, Achilles, where you do actually come to the opponents and potentially can be face-checking yourselves. So the hawk shot might be important in actually allowing them to get the deep vision that they want. They don't have a melee champion.
Glacier Fisher comes down here. Equalizer thrown out as well. Helper going to have to walk through this one. Gets slowed up, but charges his way out. And yeah, really good Weaver's Wall there by Septed to just go ahead and cut off the rest of the squad. So they'll all make it out alive, just to flash down from Comeback. Really the only consequence.
And Comeback has to go into a fairly tanky Elise build because he's the only champion who can really push up vision without being deleted.
Yeah.
Kled maybe, but then you lose a lot of his effectiveness at coming in with the charge. It's a lot about Comeback being tanky enough to put down vision. But when he gets chunked out, everyone backs away. KT slow down the game, and it probably will take a Baron for Ever8 to actually open up a big lead. And for now, the Baron plays have been thwarted by KT.
Yeah, and everybody pretty much just ignoring that dragon on the bottom side of the map. They're like, it's a Cloud Drake, whatever. Could just roll the dice, try to get another one to spawn. As there's a very small window of opportunity where they could get another one in before we see that Elder Dragon. But
Hey.
starting to push it.
And KT just want to find a bit of time. This is very much an investment build onto the Xayah. She's all about 3-item power spikes, and only now the 2-item spike is finished for KT. We saw Kramer run wild when he hit his 3rd item, but even at 2, he's going to be decent from the side of Xayah, so only now is she thinking about team fighting. The Zonia's is finished for Smeb, so there's a bit more zone control in fights. But here's the vision plays that we didn't see MVP play, and that means Mata.
Mata, yeah, face checking. Just takes a little bit of damage there. Comeback not in range for the cocoon, so the full follow-up won't come through.
Take notes, Ever8. Invade with 3 or 4 if you don't have necessarily people who can face check aplenty and push up your vision as far as possible. Nice poke from Ever8.
Yeah, Ella taking away that big Krug, I believe.
4 people invested trying to get the vision so they can turn on to Baron in a few moments, but for now it's pretty shallow and will be largely cleared away. Sweepers, 2 of which, both are used by KT.
And 1 still available here for Ever8, so can just keep clearing out this jungle. Trying to get the most control possible. Ella definitely doesn't want to check that brush.
But putting a ward there is really high value because the sweeper normally won't catch it when you're going through the high traffic areas in red, so it does give you some vision. They start the Baron. KT don't have any information yet. Spot ward will be cleared. Xayah will have one soon too. So going double scryers when you're behind is actually a really big thing for KT because Pawn is certainly not going to be able to walk over and pop in a yellow ward. But sweeping isn't going to help when you're this far behind, so smart decision to be going through with the blue trinket. Does stop the Baron.
Just that much more importance on actually picking up the control wards, though, because that's how you have to reliably clear vision, so everybody has to bring those through. We've seen Deft picking up a couple, dropping those down to clear out vision as well, so it's a team effort. But now Weaver's Wall thrown out here by Septed. Wants to get in onto Smeb. We'll cut him off, but Smeb flashes away.
Would have got seismically shoved back in.
So at least had that one, but Septed, I mean, Weaver's Wall down, goes down as well, but now that's going to be the catch in onto Pawn. Cleanses off, flash away, Shockwave connects in onto Septed as he goes low. Smeb now rejoining the fight score, jumping over the wall. Ash Arrow comes through, connects in onto Mata, who will flash away with respect. So no one going down, just an exchange of ultimates and summoner spells.
A lot of initiation used from Ever8. Not finding any picks means that KT can finally walk up.
I mean, that's pretty big here for Ever8, though. Because flash cleanse down from Pawn, flash from Mata, flash from Smeb. A lot more summoner spells used, where it was just Septed who used both of his.
I completely agree. In about a minute's time, when the cooldowns are back, it's big. But for the 60 seconds where everyone doesn't have ultimate, it's big for KT because they finally can step up, do a bit of damage, get some wards down.
Yeah.
But then, as you say, fast forward 2 minutes, those tools are back up. KT doesn't have as many clean answers. The seesaw of League of Legends, the windows are what we always look at. Right now, KT using the very small one they have to at least contest vision, because the next time in the Baron buff, Ashe or the Talia wall could do so much work in forcing KT to fight.
See if they can take advantage of that window of opportunity for now. Haven't really revisited the top side of the river to try to get control over that Baron.
Jules adapted his build. Doesn't need Blade the Ruin King because only Amada will really have any HP, so it's gone an Infinity Edge build. Does mean that he can't sit on the Equalizer and lifesteal through it. Very low lifesteal. Only the Warlords for lifesteal. But when it comes to cutting through Rumble Kha'Zix in particular, he is set up to do so.
Well, now Ever8 able to move forward. Come back, a little spot out this control ward. Hasn't really seen one over the wall, but now Septed getting jumped on. Banshee's Veil will get cleansed out. He's going low, and that should be the kill. Little more damage off that Flame Spitter does take him down. Smeb finds it. KT, where do they want to go from here? Have still just taken the one turret in the top side of the map. Do they want to focus on mid, or do they want to posture around Baron? Seems like they're hovering somewhere in between at the moment.
Well, they really didn't have to use much to get the single pick. That was an area they didn't have vision, Ever8, and thus nice little jump in from Score, picks up a kill. Didn't use a flash, didn't really use a consequential ultimate outside of just the Void Assault from the Kha'Zix. So they can regroup and push in further, but it's probably just, again, going to be invested in delay. They're confident at where Orianna and Xayah will be in terms of team fight in the future. Deft at 2.5 items, Orianna at two items herself. They're still building towards something, but when it comes to immediate impact, no big objective started by KT Rolster.
Slow and steady wins the race, seems to be the mantra of KT at the moment. Score jumping over, gets the flash away from Jewel, so already just burning out another summoner spell. So much respect has to be shown. As Ever8, despite the fact that they have the lead at the moment, it has been dwindling a little bit, hasn't grown much at all. And they're playing against KT. So lots of respect for the veterans.
Ever8's Baron setups against Samsung in their very recent match were actually pretty good. You'll remember that against Samsung, they lost both games, but both games they had a gold lead. They were very good around 20 to 30 minutes to push up vision, to contest Baron. That was with Malrang, but Comeback and Ella bring a lot of experience when they're both in the team. With this particular lineup, they will continue to return around Baron. They've been pretty good around the Baron compared to especially MVP and some of the other strugglers when it comes to actually opening up objectives, but turning that into match wins, the more difficult thing. Losing a couple of flashes, getting picked off in the mid lane, just gives KT more time, and it feels like all the good work Ever8 did 5 minutes ago now counts for nothing, and they have to restart the process again to get the sort of vision to start the Baron.
Well, they're going to try to start something here. Weaver's Wall comes through, cutting Smeb off. He's just going to push in, has that Equalizer thrown down in the zone he has to keep himself alive. Flash is also available, but doesn't have to use it, so Ever8 just trying to pull the trigger on something, but Smeb keeps himself safe. Score coming in, jumps in onto Comeback, takes him down to about half HP, forces out the flash, and Cocoon does connect in onto the Kha'Zix. And it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to chase much further past that.
A lot of flashes down now on the side of Ever8. That's 3. Comeback, Septed, and Yul all down a flash. Septed will have his soon. Making those play around bot side where you have no interest in killing the Drake is kind of killing Ever8. Because sure, chasing onto the Rumble, then backing off is fine.
Oh, Ashe Arrow comes through, but Juan's got the cleanse back up. No. Ever8 didn't take advantage of that window where all of those summoner spells were down on the side of KT, and now they're just losing out on their own.
And also their window of having map pressure, they could have been picking up free Drakes, but because they have been tantamount at playing around Baron and Baron only, they have no Drakes. KT is still closing the gold lead. It's only 3,000. It was 3,000 much earlier in the game.
Yep.
And now one team fight misfire, and I think KT will be in full control.
Well, there's still a lot of standing gold here, pretty much making up that entire gold lead at the moment. And it's in the turrets. So KT going to be looking to trade something back. They only get a little bit of damage in onto this mid-tier one. Haven't found much else other than that. But now the Weaver's Wall is coming through. It's going to kind of just, well, didn't really have the angle. So never mind. They just walk around. They go into the jungle. So not the best one by Septed. He's had some solid ones so far throughout this game. trying to be proactive, trying to go for those plays, but this one just a bit poorly angled, doesn't get that cut off, and they don't find the fight.
KT just playing around the edge of vision. Game goes to a bit of normalcy, and that's the thing we can criticize about Ever8 is they could have been picking up Drakes in all of this time. Now that's going to really start to cost them. They got a 25-minute Baron. Obviously, it would have been a different story. But ever since they pulled off, continuing to play the Baron Vision game, seems to have cost them more than it's given them as farm continues to be funneled onto the members of KT Rolster. Deft in particular, very, very strong to Infinity Edge and even has the Hex Drinker for a bit of team fight insurance.
He's getting there. He's been looking pretty good on the Xayah so far. Just the 1-1.
Pawn face checks Helper.
Yes, he does. Helper gets a drag back in, and Pawn's down to about half HP. The flash is still available, and it seems like KT, they just want to wrap around and try to take down this Kled. Blasting Cone is up. Score will take it for a ride. Deft doesn't quite make it over the wall, however, and Helper's going to try to sprint away. Does get the dash, now the Ash Arrow comes through. Fine score in the face, but the job was done. Helper gets out alive, doesn't have to blow Summoner Spell.
Surprised that Ever8 didn't pull the trigger, chunking out Pawn and having an angle for engage. They decided that he didn't have vision on the red side, didn't want to invade, but that seemed to be the spot where it could work. Septed here to gatekeep. Baron started.
Yeah, Scrying Orb comes down. Septed pushing very far forward, gets a lot of the HP off of Mata, and damages Score a bit. Weaver's Wall will come through, just cutting them off as Ever8 tries to go ahead and back away off of that Baron. So yet again, we'll peel back, and this is going to be an opening for KT to go for this mid-tier 1, maybe even the tier 2.
Team Night was only used for vision in that particular case. As you say, KT used the time to just push through mid lane. They knew Ella was chunked out. They might just get 2 turrets for free here, KT. They're going to be controlled. They want to get deep vision down instead, but the first time that KT has actually won out from a skirmish since the start of this game. Continue to pile items on, and you wonder if Ever8 tunneling on the Baron, they have slowed down their chances in this game because still it's 3,000 gold at 34 minutes.
Yeah, I mean 14 minutes ago it was 3.4k, so has not been growing for Ever8. It's just been stagnant, and the later that this goes on, the less it means.
Yeah, 6-item Orianna, 6-item Xayah. You take both of them in a team fight. Now, we already mentioned that KT will struggle to force that team fight, but that requires Ever8 to make perfect decisions in the late game, which, again, is something you probably don't predict.
Well, that was at least a good move, though. Rotate down, get that tier 2 in the bottom side of the map, open up control over the blue side jungle a little bit more, but that Cloud Drake still has not been taken, so there's not even pressure of an Elder Dragon down there.
The lowest value Elder Dragons you could ever expect. A single Cloud and a single Mountain on this Cloud Drake is finally taken off the map. I think people are just...
If it's ever taken
It's
off
a
the map.
protest at this point. Everyone's like, nope, I'm protesting Cloud Drakes, not interested. Staying away. It's Baron, though. Everyone likes that one.
The boycott coming through. All right, we need all the teams from every region. Don't take Cloud Drakes until Riot updates it.
But then Riot will just bet. But actually, there was 3 Infernals behind that Cloud Drake. If you just cleared it, you would know.
There you go.
I feel like the Cloud Drake is kind of like a speakeasy, where it's like, just go through the Cloud Drake and there might be cool stuff behind it.
Or maybe there's mobsters.
There could be. This is the gamble you have to take. The mobsters are our second Cloud Drake.
All right, well, here we go. Maybe a fight coming through as KT does get caught off by the Weaver's Wall, but comeback's already been chunked out. Septed poking forward.
Big damage.
Equalizer coming through, and that's going to be Smeb just deleting Ella right off the bat of the fight. Helper goes forward with the charge, but might be regretting that one. Has to flash over the ball, but all of KT is ready to pile in. They'll take him down as Smeb finds the double kill. And now finally, 36 minutes into this game, somebody will be starting up this Baron, and it's actually going to get finished.
A triple flash over the wall. They knew if Helper died, he couldn't teleport back in. Would be a true 3v5 and ends up being a 5v0 around the Baron. KT Rolster, they do it so decisively. They didn't have the tools to be decisive, but it's another one of those cases. This time it was comeback face checking. Who would have expected that? The Weaver's Wall didn't matter in this particular case. It's Duel and Ella. Just chill on the ball. Give Orianna a free initiate. You don't have to give Smeb too many chances to use the equalizer. That's the one spot you cannot fight against a Rumble around Baron. And get rid of the teleport back into the fight from Helper as well. And KT, well, you know, it still might be the 2-0 we expected, but the manner of the win is certainly one that has surprised us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a much greater fight than we ever would have anticipated. I mean, I kind of jokingly said, it's a victory in and of itself that Ever8 make it to 35 minutes. Well, they've done that, and the start of the game looked very good for them. And yet again, it kind of just seems like they suffer from the same problems as MVP. Get this strong lead, and then they don't know what to do with it. They're putting the pressure on the wrong sides of the map.
I do find myself being, well, let's hold that thought.
Now it's going to be Weaver's Wall coming through. Cocoon connects it onto Def, but he's got the Feather Sword to make himself untargetable as he jumps up, and now Helper in the front line just trying to tank up. Comeback goes in the back, will die as Def picks up the kill. And now it just seems like it's hit this point where everything that Ever8 tries to do is just going to get smacked down out of the sky by KT.
Yeah, they can even just take a brute force approach. They don't have initiation, but they could probably turret dive with the AP stack and the shields. Also, the ult's being down, though, will slow things down.
Smeb connects in onto Smeb, but now he slows him up with a harpoon, and now Septed is the one in danger. He's going to die at the end. Smeb finds the kill. And, oh dear, oh my, Ever8 being strangled out of this game very quickly as the gold lead has swapped over into KT's favor. And Smeb, you can see, he doesn't really care. He's just going to be sticking around with a sliver of HP in that bottom side of the map.
Pushing through the mid lane, getting most of the mid lane turret as the bot lane inner turret will go down for KT Rolster. They're piling everything on at this point in the game, and all Ever8 can do is watch. They have initiation, but feels like that window has shut closed, Achilles.
Yep. Waiting for that 6th item to come through here still from Pawn. Nearly has that needlessly large rod, and then we'll figure out what the next one's going to be. It's still a ways off. Might not even get it, but if the game keeps going like this, the amount of kills that are coming through, expect him to have that by the end.
And with your thought, you were saying you were trying to typify Ever8 or pigeonhole them. I feel like it's a bit hard because it's a new lineup again, right? It's come back in the jungle. Ella, it should be a lot of experience. But the thing about putting a lot of experience is kind of what it felt like KT was finding in spring season is a lot of these players have different ideologies. Ella has played at the highest level for many years in the LPL. Achani, very experienced in his own right. Just putting 2 good shot callers in a team doesn't make a team good at shot calling. It means there's 2 people who are used to having a lot of experience and having to make calls, and it can actually cause more short-term problems than necessarily short-term benefits. So in this particular game with this lineup, they have mismanaged a lead that we were surprised they could even get.
I mean, that was part of our guess and conjecture when it came down to KT in the spring split. Why were they suffering so much? Was it a too many cook situation when it came down to shot calling? So definitely is a very realistic issue. Deft here does get jumped on. Now the charge is coming through as he tries to kite back, and the Weaver's Wall is there to cut him off on the left side. So far, still cutting back successfully as that bear trap on a rope does not connect in. Gets the route down onto Helper with the Blade Caller, but still falls in the end as Duel finds the kill. Gets the double as he takes down Mata. The bot lane of KT has been dismantled, but now KT fires back. They find 3, looking for more, and they will get the ace. 13-10 now on the board. 6,000 gold, about to be in the lead, and maybe even just the end of the game.
Yeah, it should be the end of the game here. Everything used by Ever8 to chase down Deft, but it ended up being used on Mata. Such is the way of the charge. So much usement, they had nothing when the turn and collapse came through from KT. Smeb burning people down on his rumble. Gotta say, Achani, don't know about the Elise just yet. It was a good early game for Ever8, but couldn't get through that mid-game hump. KT turned it around. I want it to be cleaner for Game 2. The Game 1 result is as expected. KT Rolster 1-0 up.
Yep. Well, they get it in the end, as you say, but certainly are going to be looking to improve. This is still, despite the win, one of those games where you have quite the long VOD review. 40 minutes is what they were taken to by Ever8, which you would not expect given the rankings here, 3rd versus 8th place.
Hey, you play like that against SKT and you lose, KT Rolster. So if you're looking for a performance against weaker opposition that you can feel good about, Game 1 was not that for KT Rolster. Didn't necessarily make any huge mistakes after they fell behind and were able to stay farmed and competitive, but with a comp that didn't necessarily have strong engage, just really had scaling. In the end, Ever8 made mistakes. The scaling was observed by KT. They won the game, but they'll be hoping that Game 2 can be the proactive KT that makes good decisions in the mid and early game that we saw earlier this season that will be able to hold a candle to SKT next week.
We'll see what happens as we get ready to go to a quick break, but first we're going to have a replay of Septed
Getting interrupted.
Getting knocked off the wall. Really beautifully done there by Pawn.
That was in the meanwhile, so we were focused on Deft being taken down, but Talia died for free. Pawn. That's a super play, and we didn't even get to see it on first look. Really nice stuff from Pawn.
Well, thank you, Based OGN, for the replay, so we can take another look at that one, because that was excellently done by Pawn.
That was a Rock Lady moving quickly and hitting her with the ball was not trivial, so very nice stuff from Pawn.
And people talk about the 200 IQ Glacial Fissure by Wolf. That was...
200 IQ command attack, baby.
Oh, yeah. It was really well done. So, solid there by Pawn. Looking, a little bit rough at the start, but that was pretty much everybody on KT, but they get it back in the end. So, we're going to get ready to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have Game 2, see if KT can close this out with a 2-0.